Good morning. Glad you could join us. Thanks for tuning in. I want to share something today that I picked up from Philip Yancey. It's an excerpt, some thoughts from a book called Prayer Does It Make Any Difference? It was a great book. Read it somewhere around 2000, somewhere right around that time, I think, when it came out. You know, sometimes we want to reduce God to a formula. I know that there are different, like they have these things at certain fairs and stuff where you can play tic-tac-toe with a chicken. You can train the chicken to do all this different stuff. And I think sometimes we want to get God down, put him in a box so that we know exactly what he's going to do. May I suggest to you, we probably don't really want to do that. And I would say to you that God has been far better to me than I deserved and has been so kind and so gracious. So I just want to start out with that thought. And then when Jesus was meeting at night with Nicodemus, who was this Jewish religious leader, and he had all these questions about Jesus, and I think I would say that he was a follower of Jesus along with Joseph of Arimathea, but kind of undercover. And that's a whole nother story. But one of the things Jesus said to Nicodemus is that the Spirit of God is kind of like the wind. And those who are born of the Spirit, you don't know where the wind is coming from or where it's going. And you can't see the wind, but you can see the effect of it, and you can feel the effect of the wind. So Yancey goes on to say that he lives in Colorado and in the mountains, and in the springtime there's a pair of red foxes that almost every year they have a litter of kits. I didn't realize they're called kits, but that's what they're called. They're called kits. And I'm sure they're really cute. I used to have a fox at my place in Wheaton when we first moved in there that sometimes would just be on our deck. And it just makes your day. Last night at our place in Downers, there was a large raccoon that was on our deck, and it went right through our fence. How he did that, I have no idea. But it just reminds you it's a wild world out there. So anyway, he had a visitor, Yancey did, from New Zealand. And he said, you know, I just want to tell you that we're going to go up and there's the den. And I can whistle, I can do different things. But, you know, they're wild, and I can't promise that the kits are going to come out or Mama or Papa is going to come out, but because we don't control them. We're not in charge here. Well, sure enough, Yancey whistles or whatever, and they get to see one of the kits. And it's the kind of thing that makes your day, right? And so his friend went back to New Zealand and then contacted him, and he said, you know, I really learned something from that whole experience with the foxes. He said, I've been going through a time of depression, really been under it. But the reality is that God's wild, and we don't control God. God's in charge, not us. And he said, I'm really glad I had a chance to see the fox, but more, it was like an illustration to him. He said he battled depression, and as he did, sometimes God seemed as close as his family members that were right there. And other times it seemed like God was absent, like he wasn't there. The Apostle James, or the writer of the book of James, who is actually the half-brother of Jesus, writes, and he says, come near to God and he will come near to you. It doesn't say how soon God will come near to you. And so what I would suggest to you today is that do your part. Draw close to God, and I am confident that he will draw close to you. I can't promise you a formula that God's going to pop his head out as soon as you do that, so to speak. But I'm confident that if you do that over the course of the next week, you'll look back and you'll see, oh my goodness, God did draw close to me. So that's our word for today. Draw close to God, do your part, and trust him that he will come through. That's real faith. Can't promise when, but God will be there for you. Have a great day.